Call of Duty Goddess presents what the Malheur Refuge Standoff is all about. It's all about our freedom, ladies and gentlemen, and fighting for it. Fighting for it lawfully. Everything that's being done with this refuge is lawful. And I will read the Declaration of Independence to prove that to you. Not the whole thing, but I will read it as with the redress of grievances that the Bundy and militia wrote that represent each and every one of us. And each and every one of us needs to join together and understand what the big picture is here and understand how this will save our country and come together in Oregon at that refuge to show the government that we're not going to take it anymore, lawfully. Let's begin. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light of transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evidences a design to produce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. We the people, united individuals of these States United, Coalition of Western States, Pacific Patriot Network, Bundy Family Supporters, Oregon Oath Keepers, Idaho 3%, Central Oregon Constitutional Guard, Oregon Tactical, Oregon Bearded Bastards, Liberty Watch Washington, Nevada Committee for Full Statehood, Rural Heritage Preservation Project, Liberty for All. December 11, 2015. Notice redress of grievance. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. Sheriff David Ward, Commissioner Dan Nichols, Commissioner Pete Runnels, Justice of the Peace Donna Thomas, District Attorney Tim Colhan, Attorney General Ellen Rosenbaum, Governor Kate Brown. Dear sirs, after extensive research on the Hammond case, we the people of these States United have reason to believe that Dwight and Stephen Hammond were not afforded their rights to due process as protected by the United States Constitution. We have principled evidence that Dwight and Stephen Hammond committed no crime in the act of performing their prescribed burn and backfire, that the U.S. government does not have the authority to enforce territorial law under Article 4 within the state of Oregon, and that the County of Harney and State of Oregon failed to protect the Hammond's right as guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, U.S. Constitution 42.1986, 18.242, 18.121, 42.1983, 42.1985. We hold compelling evidence that the United States government abused the federal court system, situating the Hammond family into duress is an effort to force the Hammonds to sell their Steen Mountain property to a federal agency. We have substantial evidence that the U.S. Attorney's Office exploited an act of Congress imposing cruel and unusual punishment upon residents of Harney County. We hold substantial evidence that inside the borders of Harney County, the U.S. government is acting outside the authority enumerated in the Constitution of the United States. We secure evidence that the U.S. Attorney's Office independently prepared the indictment against Dwight and Stephen Hammond, that the grand jury did not properly assemble or investigate before the indictment. We have no evidence that the grand jury participated in the indictment altogether. We have sure evidence that the U.S. Congress does not have authority to legislate minimum sentences, requiring Dwight and Stephen Hammond to serve 5 years in a federal penitentiary. We hold confirming video evidence of federal agents exhibiting a culture of intimidation towards individuals and businesses within the borders of Harney County. The federal agents by fire destroy private property, and that the Hammond family are being denied the same protection of the laws that are enjoyed by federal agents. We have supporting evidence that Judge Hogan controlled the narrative and did not allow full disclosure in the courtroom. We have additional evidence that Dwight and Stephen Hammond were sentenced for something different than what they were found guilty of. We hold sounding evidence that Dwight and Stephen Hammond are victims of cruel and unusual punishment, and that the U.S. Justice Department is violating the Eighth Amendment. We hold sure evidence that Dwight and Stephen Hammond are being subject for the same offense twice, put in jeopardy, including the Ninth District Court of Appeals is in violation of the Fifth Amendment. We have obtained appalling evidence that the U.S. Attorney's Office threatened the Hammond family with early detention and further punishment if the Hammond family continued to communicate with a certain individual. This evidence foundational speaks against the U.S. Attorney's Office in their gross effort to infringe upon the Hammond's right to free exercise of speech, First Amendment U.S. Constitution 18.242. In a commitment to expose the truth and administrative justice, we the people of these states united insist that you immediately assemble an independent evidential hearing board comprised of the people of Harney County in accordance with common law principles. That the evidential hearing board call witnesses and investigate each of these allegations publicly. That the evidential hearing board make public conclusions in writing upon their findings. That the Harney County Board of Commissioners and the Sheriff's Department enforce the conclusions of the evidential hearing board in support of the United States Constitution. We further insist that the Hammond family be protected from reporting to federal prison until all allegations can be determined. We need not remind you of your lawful duty to act on these matters as insisted, nor of the consequences if you knowingly neglected your duty. U.S. Constitution 18.2382, 18.2071, 18.2076, 42.1983, 42.1985, 42.1986. In light of the information presented, we require your thoughtful response within 5 days of the date of this notice. If we do not receive your response within 5 days, we will have no choice but to understand that you do not wish to do your duty and are content in acting in negligence to your solemn oath to the people you have placed in this fiduciary position, and in defiance of your obligation to defend the rights and the liberties of the people. Therefore, govern yourself accordingly, respectively. We the people, united individuals of these states united. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I watched an interview. I watched the talk between Eamon Bundy and the sheriff did not even acknowledge this list of grievances. This will not stop. This cannot stop. People of Harney County, please understand what is happening to you, what is happening to America. And if you do not stand with the people in that refuge, you take your rights, your life, your liberty into your own hands. I implore you, please think about what you're doing. Please. I encourage you to go to the Bundy blog and see for yourself what happened. You can see the letters, everything that is being done by these people, by our fellow brave American citizens, is completely lawful. What is being sensationalized in the media is just a repeat of history. It's the king. It's the king playing his part and trying to win the people over with lies and deception. You be the judge. You look at both sides. Read Agenda 21. Read Agenda 2030. Get an idea of what's coming to America if we do not put our foot down, come together as individuals and put our foot down and say, no, we will not take it anymore. You can take part in this. We need your help. We are all in this together as a nation, and this nation is falling apart, and we need to bring it back together again against an unruly government that will not listen to us. Please help us in this cause. Help save your nation. Go there if you can. Donate if you can. Do something to help this out. Thank you for listening, and this is Call of Duty Goddess. And as always, I've got your 6.